I now recognize the gentleman from Puerto Rico, Mr. Hernandez, for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I find the lack of bipartisanship on this issue deeply concerning because I think it's completely possible and logical to be able to hold two ideas at the same time. That most protests are peaceful and that most law enforcement officers are law-abiding, patriotic American citizens out to do their job and fulfill their duty. And they have my unequivocal support. I come from Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is a high-crime jurisdiction. We've had many law enforcement officers fall in the line of duty for reasons completely unrelated to politics. And every time it happens, the whole island unites behind them in full support, in full solidarity, in absolute sympathy with their families as victims of crime. Now, I believe in holding people accountable. I think that's an essence of law enforcement. It's what prevents crime from becoming worse. And so when officers fall in the line of duty, I think it's crucial that we hold the people who committed those crimes accountable. When officers are assaulted in the line of duty, I think it's critical that we hold those people who committed those crimes accountable. But accountability is a two-way street. And so I am worried that in our defense of law enforcement, we are letting the few, the very few, the incredibly few, and I want to emphasize that point, that fail, go without any sort of accountability. So for example, like when ICE picked up Aracelis in Cabo Rojo, someone who was legally in Puerto Rico, and took her all the way to Texas without being able to contact her lawyer, ICE should be held accountable. When ICE agents shoved a pregnant woman and she fell down during a raid, putting her unborn child at risk, those ICE agents should be held accountable. When far-right activists attacked Capitol police officers on January 6th, they should be held accountable, and pardoning them is not holding them accountable. I regret generalizations, and I think calls to defund the police and categorical statements towards police officers and law enforcement agencies tend to do more harm than good. But we cannot ignore the necessity and the importance of accountability. And speaking of accountability, you know, this administration has illegally frozen and canceled key public safety grants. And in my district, one of those affected entities is Taller Salud, an entity dedicated solely to community-based violence intervention that collaborates with law enforcement to strengthen public safety. And Taller Salud, which works to reduce violent crime, support victims, and strengthen coordination with law enforcement, faced a $2 million cut in their community violence intervention program grant this year. And without this funding, the ability of local partners to prevent violence, to support survivors, and to serve high-risk populations, especially women and children, has been severely undermined. So in July, I sent a letter urging the DOJ to reinstate this funding. But although DOJ has not responded, I will continue pushing for answers and for the restoration of this essential funding. So my questions are pretty straightforward, and I hope they can find some cross or bipartisan support. To all witnesses, to all of you here, how will reducing the grants and money awarded to state and local law enforcement officers hurt their efforts to keep our communities safe? Start with Mr. Hughes.
So, Congressman, thank you for the question. And like you spoke about accountability, and accountability is essential in everything that we do. Because once we lose that accountability, we lose the public trust, we lose the strength in the institutions. We need to have the accountability. And I'll say also that nobody should be going outside the law. No law enforcement officer, nobody. And hopefully there's no debate on that. We all have to act in accordance with the law. And if we don't, we should be held accountable. So we need to be working as a body here to ensure that the laws reflect that, and we're providing the protections and the strengthening of the laws to do that, and then the law enforcement officers can act accordingly.
Mr. Thompson.
I'll address the grants. You know, we're broke as a nation. We're $37 trillion in debt. Everybody's got to take some action.
Well, I disagree. I understand
let me
that, but I also disagree. I've seen spending go up in areas that are not necessary, while spending
But
goes
you asked
down in
me about-
areas that
you
are.
asked me
I
about
disagree with your
grants.
point, and I see my
I'll
time is up, so I
address the
yield
grants
back.
question, and the grants, they hurt. There's no two ways about it. When those dollars don't make it down to the boots on the ground, protecting us, it hurts.
Thank you.
Gentleman yields back. I now recognize the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. McKenzie.